Alrighty, okay. Reading more from this Masonic publication. This is what they used to be called before they changed their name to the Scottish Rite Journal, obviously not wanting us to make any connection with the communist New Age movement and them. But we know that there obviously is. As a matter of fact, they're the ones that started it, as well as the other occult secret societies. So, reading another article, The Mission of Masonry. And remember, when I'm reading these, I'm not expecting to find them saying, that we're going to build a tyrannical New World Order and control you, or control the masses, and we're going to kill everybody or something, or, hail Lucifer. They're not going to write like that. They're going to write in a way where they're going to make it sound like a utopia where everybody's going to be happy, and, they're the saviors, they're the heroes, and they're the good guys. They're the real Christians, blah, 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 blah. So, I exercise discernment when you're hearing this. Keywords sprinkled throughout their documents: liberty, equality, fraternity, universal brotherhood, brotherhood of man being established, a league of nations, universal fraternity, sustainable society, whatever you want to call it. They're all just buzzwords for the New World Order, as I have clearly demonstrated and shown through these series of videos I've been doing on this channel. So, this article came out in October, I believe, of 1919. It doesn't say the year on this article, but I'm under the understanding that this is either 1920 or 1919. I think it's October of 1920, I'm sorry. Okay, this is part one of the Mission of Masonry. Illiteracy and Education by Reynold E. Blight, 32nd degree. We are living in the most significant age of the world's history. We are shaping the future. Never since the fall of the Roman Empire has so gigantic a task been laid upon the shoulders of a generation. We are laying the very foundations of the civilization that is to be. Glorious opportunity, stupendous responsibility. Freemasonry cannot afford to stand aside as a mere observer during this period of world reconstruction. Again, you'll find that in all New World Order literature and documented documents. They refer to reform in the world as world reconstruction, especially the ones written post-World War I, post-World War II. As a fraternity, we represent certain fundamental moral and social principles which we firmly believe must prevail if the largest interests of humanity are to be conserved. They are a heritage that we have received from our fathers, a heritage bought by them at infinite suffering and sacrifice. These principles have been entrusted to our care. Not only to enjoy, but to safeguard, not only to preserve, but to carry on to greater fulfillment. Is it not our duty to see to it that in the civilization that is now in process of development, these principles of freedom, justice, and humanity are builded into the very foundations? Shall we not prove unworthy, of the fathers of our blessed heritage, of the privileges we enjoy, if by neglect or sloth we fail to pass on to our children, undiminished and unsullied, this precious boon bequeathed to us from this splendid past? How can Freemasonry worthily fulfill her mission in these pregnant times in which we live? We must walk carefully. We may never forget that our lodge rooms must be kept forever free from sectarian contention and partisan strife. But it is quite possible to avoid on one side the temptation to indulge in glittering generalities and vague sentimentalities, which, while utterly safe, provoke no practical response nor indicate specific answers to direct questions or offer adequate solutions to pressing problems. On the other hand, avoid the expression of partisan sentiments and personal prejudices. It is quite possible to particularize as to issues and policies which, while being specific, will be so fundamental as to win the approval of every true-thinking Mason. Let us take as an illustration the great problem of illiteracy, than which none more serious challenges our attention. Democracy, even though you won't find that word anywhere in our Constitution, it's been known as the code word for socialism. Democracy, in its final analysis, rests upon the intelligence of its citizenship. This is a truism. An ignorant electorate is a dangerous electorate, and that is so true that it is more true than ever today, especially with the Democrats. Subject to whim and prejudice and ready at the hand of any demagogue or fanatic that may happen to catch the popular fancy, radicalism thrives on ignorance. During recent years, wide surveys of the educational conditions of our nation have been made, and the results are appalling. Of the young men called to the colors by the draft, nearly 25% failed to pass a very simple literacy test. Careful estimates show that approximately 17 million adults in this country are illiterate. The gravity of this situation cannot be fully appreciated until we remember that under our system of manhood and womanhood, suffrage, and the well-established principle of one man, one vote, this mighty block of illiterate voters count for just as much in our elections as a similar number of educated, thinking, responsible citizens. The prostitute from the Tenderloin casts as valid a vote as the graduate of Vassar. The gunman from the east side of New York casts as good a vote as a university president. The superstitious Negro goes from the hut of the voodoo man to the polls, just as the businessman carrying the responsibility for mighty enterprises fraught with the lives and comfort of thousands of people goes from his office, and his vote is just as effective. I don't know whether to call that a racist statement, or I don't think every Negro is coming from the hut, and practicing voodoo. But I don't know. Anyways, this is back in 1920. The one institution that holds the solution to this terrible problem is the American public school. Democratized education is the only answer. Democratized education is the only answer. Socialized education is the only answer, he might as well have said. And what good has these public schools have really done anyways? They promise us a solution to an answer that never really becomes a solution at all. It becomes more of a problem. You learn some skills in school, granted, at least back then. I don't know about today, but yeah, I get it. But for the most part, in regards to history and other things, and the fact that a lot of the knowledge, important knowledge, is kept secret amongst the elite, I would have to say schools are nothing more than socialized brainwash centers, really. So anyways, democratized education is the only answer. Freemasonry has ever constituted itself the defender and supporter of the public school. Well, there you go. Again, one of the major sources of this push to force our children into public schools, the Lodge. In the fruitful darkness of illiteracy, Masonry holds aloft the torch of enlightenment. Yeah, the fake enlightenment. Yeah, they hold aloft the torch of bullshit. Masonry may well assume a most active role in fostering those movements. Hear that? And there are many that seek to extend the influence of the public school. We should not rest until every adult, especially every child between the two oceans and in our overseas possessions, has received the full benefit of our educational system, our brainwashing system, in other words. And by the same token, Freemasonry may well frankly challenge every non-educational and selfish interest that desires to handicap or injure the public school system of America. Freemasonry, let me repeat that. Freemasonry may well frankly challenge every non-educational selfish interest that desires to handicap or injure the public school system of America. The enemies of the American public school are the foes of the Commonwealth. The problems of public education are immense and many. For instance, our magazines have been telling us the dreadful story of the dearth of teachers, and multitudes of the teachers we have we have fall far below the required educational standards. A prominent educator made the statement recently that in this United States, 100,000 schoolhouses were closed because there were no teachers to open them. 150,000 teachers are under 21 years of age, children teaching children. Over 30,000 teachers have no education beyond the 8th grade, and nearly 300,000 have had no professional preparation. The teachers are doing the best they can, but are the 20 million boys and girls in our schools receiving a square deal under such conditions as these? In passing, it is but proper to allude to the inadequacy of teachers' salaries. During the past 2 years, thousands of most excellent teachers have been compelled to leave schoolwork and go into business or other professional association for economic reasons. We can afford, if necessary, to do without many civic improvements, but we cannot afford to follow a penurious policy in dealing with our schools and those who teach therein. The very future of our democracy, our constitutional republic, as what it really is, really supposed to be, hangs upon the efficiency of our educational system. The ideals of the schoolroom will be the ideals of the coming social organism. At any cost, the educational standards must be maintained. It is the mission of Masonry to take a lively interest in the subject of public education and to see to it, Masonry, see to it, that every child receives his right to an education. By this means alone may the integrity of the Commonwealth be safeguarded. So, that's it for that article, and many more to come up. But again, I just wanted to show that, in this article, it's a little bit more than just a fraternal organization, where they're just a bunch of good old boys. They were really wanting to influence society in their direction, but notice nothing about a constitutional republic, all about democracy. And democracy you won't find that anywhere in our Constitution, anywhere in I don't believe in the Declaration of Independence, but let me get that out again. I think I have it. There's quotations from. I guess I'll have to overread that again to see if there's anything in there and see if George Washington said anything regarding regarding the word democracy. Democracy, it's been said, is indispensable to socialism, and it really isn't. It's mob rule, so I understand it, and it obviously clearly does not work whatsoever. I have some very interesting I have an interesting picture to show you, people. I stumbled upon this article. Masons celebrate first 170 years in Naperville with faith, hope, and charity. And this is October 12, 2019. For it was, a while back. So, yeah. But, you can go read that anyways. I want to just show this picture that I stumbled upon. I was in the ceiling of this Grand Lodge. Okay, so you have these row of pictures here. You have okay, so it's the chair. Well, take a look at this. Okay, it's loading. Okay. So anyways, take a look at this, and you notice the planet Saturn. It's interesting. They couldn't choose another planet, couldn't they? I mean, could they? They had to choose the planet Saturn. And the Saturn symbolism is everywhere. And there you go. Here's the side of the lodge. Yeah, this is just such a moral, loving society. Oh, they just love us. They love the children. Well, what's interesting is then the myth of Saturn. Saturn was known as eating his own children. Or Saturn eating his son. There's a famous picture of Saturn devouring his son by Spanish artist Francisco Goya. So there's Saturn. And that made me think, they're eaters of children. You read books like The Franklin Cover-Up by John DeCamp and the other, I don't want to say it because they always take my video down when I try to talk about it. But the whole, Pizzagate thing. If I even said, by saying that, I might get this video taken down. How dare I? But, it makes sense why all the Saturn symbolism when you think about it. Here it's all about devouring children, sucking off of children for their energy and stuff, whatever. It gives them power. I don't know. It's something like that. Or in Saturn's case, and this idea, anyways, of Saturn devouring his son. He feared that he would be overthrown by one of his children, so he ate each one upon their birth. So it would kind of make sense again why they would, because it's an archetype of who many of these sick elites, who they are. They're eaters of children. Interesting, even in horror movies, you have, this Saturn hidden in, within like the main character or something like that. Like I can cite one example. You have Freddy Krueger from the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Because I used to watch horror movies, and I once in a while I still will watch a horror movie or something if it's on TV or if it's just the only thing on, depending on it depends. If it's too much, I won't. But I mean it, whatever. It's But there's the remake or something that came out in 2010. It was on TV, so I watched a little bit of that. And there was a scene where one of the kids was falling asleep in his laptop in this library, and something caught my eye. And when before his laptop shut down, what he was looking at in his laptop was that exact was an article with this picture on here. And then I went, interesting. He's looking up things on Saturn because he's trying to research who this Freddy guy who's chasing after him in his dream is. So there's that image of Saturn, and I went, wow. So that's what Freddy is. And notice how he has a snap brim fedora, and he kind of turns it to where you can it looks similar to the ring of Saturn. And of course, that part of his hat shuts that, covers that one eye, and there's that Illuminati symbolism in there. And you also have, in the very original Nightmare on Elm Street, you have, that I went back and looked, you have this picture in Johnny Depp's, Johnny Depp played in the movie, he played a character in the movie where he gets devoured by the bed from Freddy. But on the side of the bed, there's a picture of Saturn. So, that's what Freddy is, Saturn. So, you have this Saturn amongst these elites and these Freemasons and the Illuminati, the Brotherhood of Saturn. And Saturn, and who is Freddy? Freddy was a perverted child killer. And then you have this interesting scene in A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, and remember when the whole pizza thing came out, with the pizza place at Comet Ping Pong, and people started seeing the connections between in our entertainment industry, in the movies and stuff like that, with this connection with pizza and sex with young children. And I thought it was interesting because there was a scene in the Nightmare on Elm Street I believe it was the fourth one. The one you can go probably watch the clip on YouTube. But there's a nightmare that this girl has, and she's in this diner that she goes into during her nightmare, and Freddy's in there, whatever, and he brings out this pizza with children's souls on the meatballs of the pizza, the children that he devoured. And so again, he takes his blade and he stabs into the meatball, and then he eats the child meatball while it's screaming. Again, if he's Saturn, it's Saturn devouring his children, devouring children, and then all that's the archetype of the child predatory elite. And so yeah, so all this Mason crap of charity and love and children, it's all bullshit. People that think it's just wacko to think that that's possible. Well, you get to think that that's not possible, that people are that evil. Well, you have this guy, this scumbag right here, and in his own words, he talks about sacrifice. This whole subject about sacrifice, and a lot of these Crowley disciples, Crowley worshiping scum that try to defend this douchebag, they actually tried to say that when he talked about sacrificing children, that he wasn't really talking about sacrificing children. He was talking about, I don't know if I should use this language in here, but him playing with himself. That's the I guess after he ejaculated or something, that was the sacrifice or something like that. It's basically an esoteric code for him talking about him, whatever. It's gross, but read the whole chapter. The whole context is about sacrifice. They're just making shit up as they go. Why? Because, well, it's their way of covering up the fact that these occultists are into sacrifice. Many of them are. And he states right here why the sacrifice. It was, in any case, it was the theory of the ancient magicians that any living being is a storehouse of energy, varying in quantity according to the size and health of the animal, and in quality according to its mental and moral character. At the death of the animal, this energy is liberated suddenly. The animal should therefore be killed within the circle or the triangle so that its energy cannot escape. So there you get what he's talking about here. He's talking about, they sacrifice within their, an altar or within a circle or whatever, because it traps their energy. And why do they want to trap their energy? So they can devour that energy. So then he talks about sacrificing for the highest spiritual working. One must accordingly choose that victim which contains the greatest and purest force. A male child of perfect innocence and high intelligence is the most satisfactory and suitable victim. So he said that human sacrifice is the best. So that's why they sacrifice. They sacrifice to devour the child's energy. That doesn't represent every single occultist, every single person that believes in this horseshit. But there's many who do believe that, and obviously the secret society people who are in the entertainment industry and other important places of influence are into this kind of shit. Just go watch Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. Matter of fact, I think I might call this quits for tonight. I was going to show you the clip, but you know the clip. Tom Cruise goes into the mansion, and that mansion, by the way, was, I think it was an actual mansion of one of the Rothschilds. In the movie Eyes Wide Shut, when he goes in there and there's a satanic ceremony going on. They're doing all kinds of disgusting shit. And yeah, it's just Stanley Kubrick was actually killed that year that movie came out. Interesting enough. Well, I kind of got two different subjects here. I really wanted to show in this article of this Masonic publication, New Age magazine, that they're in there. They're writing in these articles how they're continuously calling for a new world order. They're calling for democratized public school systems, and basically understanding that word democracy and as being a code word for some kind of socialism. Anyways, it is not a public education system that's going to do it. That did us any good anyways. So this whole thing about, well, all these people are undereducated and we need a public school system to get people more educated. It was just really just, again, using a situation, a bad situation that was going on, as an opportunity of theirs, so they can come in like the saviors and then seize more control over our society and control the narrative and everything, where the society is going and everything else. That's how these deceivers work. Well, have a good night. Take care.